arigato, Mr. Roboto.
Domo arigato, geek to me radio, da 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 da. Domo arigato, geek to me radio, da 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 da.
Welcome, geeks and nerds, girls and boys, to another all-new edition of Geek to Me Radio. Today, we are joined by composer Sunna Wehrmeijer, talking all about the upcoming She-Ra reboot coming to Netflix from DreamWorks. We'll then be joined by the social media wizard Brett Hoffman from Marcus Theaters, talking all things movies that are out now and coming up. Stand by.
We're talking TV, comics and movies, and video games. And if you don't know Star Trek from Star Wars, we'll try to explain. There are 12 doctors for Hogwarts houses, one ring rules them all. To be the greatest Pokemon master, you must catch them all. You must catch them all. Try to catch them all. Gotta catch them all. Gotta catch them all.
And if you're driving around the greater St. Louis area right now, hearing this on 105.3 FM or 1380 AM, we thank you for finding us there. If you are streaming this out there in the world on parts of the internet, we appreciate you finding us there. And of course, if you're hearing us after the fact in the podcast version on Google Play, iTunes, SoundCloud, or Podomatic, we appreciate that subscribing and listening that you do for us each week. We are going to jump right to our first guest. She is an Emmy-nominated composer, Sunna Wehrmeijer, and she's working on the brand new series for which I'm so excited, She-Ra and the Princesses of Power, done by DreamWorks, coming to Netflix. Sunna, thanks very much for taking time out of your Sunday to be on air with us.
Totally, thank you.
So this is one of those, I'm an 80s child. I watched He-Man and I watched She-Ra. I've even got the DVD of the He-Man She-Ra Christmas special, for crying out loud. So when they announced that this reboot was being done, I was excited. I've loved what DreamWorks and Netflix did with the Voltron relaunch. So this project is something I'm terribly excited about, and I can assume you must have been being handed over this project to do all the composing for.
Absolutely. I am an 80s child as well, and I still believe the 80s rock. I mean, the 80s are amazing. It doesn't get better than that. So I was
agree.
absolutely thrilled to do the show. Yeah.
So you were a fan of the series as well, growing up? Because I used to watch it all the time too, even though, as a boy I wasn't supposed to, but I was in that He-Man universe. It was a shared universe. I loved watching She-Ra, and I secretly wanted that Crystal Palace playset to set next to Castle Grayskull, but I never ended up getting it. So I take it you were a fan of the show back then as well.
It's so funny because I'm not sure if the show ever made it to the Netherlands, where I'm from, because none of my friends know it. I don't know. From Holland, I mean. I didn't know it. It's ridiculous. But as a huge 80s fan, it doesn't make any sense that I just didn't know it. So obviously, I looked it up when I heard about it.
And now with the internet, we can see whatever we want.
I know. So clearly, I did my research and I watched it. But, the reboot is very different than the original.
Yeah, obviously, and it's going to be very drama-ridden. I love all the stuff I've seen, the previews, the stuff I've read on it, and it's coming on to Netflix, I believe, the 16th of November, so we just have a few more days left to go.
13th.
13th, they moved it up. Oh, great.
Back. Yeah.
13th, even better. It's 3 less days. I've got to sit there and kind of look through the queue to see when it's going to drop. That's fantastic.
I know.
So what is the process for you when you're composing this? Or did they give you stills? Do you actually get to see full episodes? Did they give you kind of storyboards? How do you begin the process of composing the music for this series?
Yeah, in the beginning, obviously, they had sort of an idea for the music. They wanted, partly classic orchestral adventure music as well as contemporary 80s sound. So, it's very tempting to go full on 80s.
Right.
To keep it, 21st century 80s. And so obviously I got a lot of feedback from them. And, I get full episodes. So I basically get inspiration from the visuals because it's such a well-made show by very clever people who are very talented. So it's like, the visuals are almost just telling me what to do, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And so with the, did they have any of the, because I can still hear the theme music from the original, did they totally keep elements of the original, or did they go kind of brand new, fresh, updated for the sound?
No, it's a freshly updated sound, and I also think it's a much more emotional series than the original. The characters are very deep. They have all their own journeys, and the music really, it grows with the characters. It goes through its own journey, and the music really makes you feel a lot of things. So you can't just binge it, not really paying attention. It's quite the emotional journey. Sometimes after an episode, I'm exhausted. I'm drained.
Yeah, we had composers on the show before, and we've talked about how, if you watch a movie or a TV series and you mute it, even if you have the subtitles on so you see what they're saying, you don't get that same emotional build without the music. It is such an essential component, and I'm always fascinated by how the music carries a particular episode or movie.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I can only watch The Shining muted. Yeah,
yeah, that's one of those you might need to. Sure, yeah.
Yeah.
And so many other projects you've worked on that I've loved. I'm excited for the one coming up with the new Holmes with the kind of the comedic reboot. How was that to work on a film like that?
Oh, I mean, it's a really funny film. I pissed myself. It's a very funny movie. I was lucky to write on it. I sometimes get these random, unexpected calls like, "Do you have time to write on this movie?" And Holmes and Watson was one of those. It's a really, they had got some big orchestra going on, which was all, obviously live recorded. Mark Mothersbaugh is the composer. Mm. I just helped him out, but it's a really funny film. I would definitely recommend everybody to go see it.
And just all the other films and projects you've worked on, just some fantastic stuff. Robin Hood, The Grey with Liam Neeson, the Hunger Games movies. That's just all the stuff you worked on has been phenomenal. Out of the projects you've worked on, do you have one that you're most particularly proud of out of them?
Yeah, I do have a special thing with the Hunger Games film. I didn't really write much on it, but I got to sing on it.
Yeah.
Which is very random. And I'm not a great singer. Don't put me on the stage for millions of people because that's not going to be good. But I tend to sing on my own scores, and I'm actually doing the oohs and ahs on She-Ra. It's actually become quite part of the sound of the score. Again, these things just sort of happen. But yeah, Hunger Games definitely has a little special place for me.
And with working on the music for the new She-Ra and the Princesses of Power, it was announced last year. How far in advance did you start working on it? Were you right there from the get-go when they announced it? Did they kind of have stuff done and then bring you in? And how has the process been finding the sound for the show?
Right. Oh, gosh. You demo for things. I can barely remember. Maybe last April or something. I demoed for it, and maybe last summer I was on board, and I think it's more than a year ago that I started to write on it. Mm-hmm. Definitely, it's been in my life for ages. So I'm very happy that finally the rest of the world. I'm like, yes, this really exists. I didn't just make this up. It actually exists. I feel like it's been part of my life for forever. Like I just gave birth to my second baby.
Oh, congratulations.
When I went in, yeah, no, not now, but when I went in to, thank you, to meet them, so a year and a half ago or whatever, I was basically sort of, I could barely get away from the house, but, I had the meeting with them about She-Ra, and it was such a crazy time for me to sort of start that project, have a brand new baby, and figure all of that out, but very grateful that I was able to pull it off.
And so it sounds like you had some time, because I know some composers say they like the more time they have to compose, the better, because they don't want to feel rushed. So it sounds like you had an adequate amount of time. You're happy with the process and the way everything turned out in the end?
Yeah. I mean, we definitely, there's basically from beginning to end, each episode takes about a month for the music. You know, we go through different versions. They have feedback. And then there's overlapping episodes, obviously, because you're still on one, finishing, you're starting the next one. You know, it's still TV, so you don't get as much time as you would like, obviously. But they definitely give me enough time because they're keen on, you know, music of quality. They want it to sound good, so they like thematic stuff, which is great because I feel like a nice theme really helps the story and your connection to the characters. And when you hear the theme, you're like, oh, you know, I'm feeling for this person or whatever, and it's recognizable. So they like that, and you know, they want to give me enough time to come up with it.
And you mentioned the thematic because it is very much like the Netflix shows, and I know it's like this with Voltron, so I'm assuming it'll be the same way with She-Ra. When you watch it, it's almost like you're getting small snippets of a movie. It's that quality of production between the music, the animation, the voice work. It is like you're working on just an extended film that we're able to kind of bite-sized digest with little episodes, depending on how quickly you binge through it. So that's great.
That's exactly how it feels for me. I feel like every episode, 22 minutes, is a mini movie. It's the way they made it. It's very cinematic. The voice acting is, you know, it's just really well done. It's really well done, and it just keeps getting better. And I like that they want the music to sound cinematic and big. And you know, often when I feel like I've done the biggest I possibly can, they're like, "Can you make it even bigger?" I'm like, "Yeah, of course." And I absolutely love that about it.
That's the answer you always want to give when someone says, "Can you do something?" Of course I can. Yeah, absolutely. We can do bigger. We can do louder. Whatever you want.
I know. That's the standard answer. Then I'll figure out how.
So besides She-Ra and the new Holmes and Watson, is there another project you're currently working on that you can tell us what to watch for?
Yeah, this is for kids a little smaller, but it's called Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz. It's a Warner Brothers series. It's actually in its second series now. We're starting to write on season 3 soon.
Wow.
It's just, you know, the continuation of the story of the Wizard of Oz, Dorothy and all her friends, and it's really lovely. It's classic animated Warner Brothers, you know, animation. It's just lovely. So anyone who has kids, you know, the ages of like 6 sort of, they should definitely watch it.
And if I'm not mistaken, that's the series that the very talented Carrie Walgren is one of the voice actors for.
Yeah, I think, yeah.
So yeah, that's when you've got someone like that, some talent behind some of the voices, because it's amazing. The voiceover artists, I'm always fascinated by their work. Just like I always tell the composers, it's like you guys are doing advanced math for a living, and these films and TV series would not be the same without the music that underscores them. So thank you very much for your work. I'm looking forward to seeing what She-Ra, Princesses of Power has on the 13th of November is when we get to see it.
Yes, good.
All right. Well, I appreciate your calling in today, and it was great to talk to you. Sunna Wehrmeijer, you can find her on Instagram, I believe, correct?
Well, go to my website. I'm not huge on Instagram, but yes, I do have an account.
The website. Okay, we'll post a link to your website on our Facebook page, so all the listeners who want to check out more of Sunna Wehrmeijer's work, you can check her out on our link that we'll post on our Facebook page later on. Thank you so much for taking time out of your Sunday to being on air with us. We look forward to seeing the show.
Thanks very much.
Anytime. There she goes. When once again, She-Ra and the Princesses of Power are coming to Netflix November 13th. So make sure to lock that one in. We're looking forward to binging that show. We're going to come right back talking with Mr. Bret Hoffman from Marcus Theaters, going over all the movies we've seen and the new movies that are coming out yet. So stand by.
Hey man, it's me, Kevin Smith, Silent Bob. You're listening to Geek to Me Radio, man. This is the only radio show that the guy does Pat Man Beyond listens to for his geek news.
And we're back. This segment brought to you by Marcus Theaters. MarcusTheaters.com is the website where you can buy your tickets, find out where the closest Marcus Theater is to you. You can check your rewards balance if you're a member of the Movie Rewards Club, and you should be. You get basically rewarded for going to see movies, and there's a bunch of movies coming out this winter. There's some great ones out in theaters now, and if you're going to see it, we recommend seeing them in a Marcus Theaters. Why would you want to see a movie in anything less than first class with the big, comfy, reclining seats? They got the heated seats. They got the big DXL theater screens with the super sound, fantastic concessions. And here to tell us more about what movies you can see coming up is their social media and marketing wizard, Mr. Bret Hoffman. Thank you very much for being on air with us today, sir.
Thanks, James. Happy to be on.
So you and I were talking on the phone briefly earlier in the week discussing some of the stuff coming up. So we're going to start out talking about Aquaman because I want to get you in trouble. No, I'm kidding. I'm so jealous you've already gotten to see it. I know my screening's not until later on, but I'm very excited to see it. But there's so many good movies out. It's like we're ending 2018 so incredibly strong. And I know one of the ones that you and I both saw was Instant Family, which I really enjoyed.
Yeah, this was a great movie. It is coming out here on. It's coming out here towards the end of the month, and I think when it comes out on 11/16, this is going to appeal to a wide range of families and adults who want to go see this film. You and I both saw it early, and what was interesting is both of us had director-writer Sean Anders talk to us before the film. And if people don't know, director-writer Sean Anders has done the Daddy's Home series of movies, but this movie was real particular to him in that it was based upon things that he had gone through, that he and his wife had been through in the adoption of their children as well. So the movie starts out with Mark Wahlberg playing a man who, him and his wife, basically get into the foster care system, decide to adopt 3 different children from the same family. And I don't know about you, but the movie is very emotional in the fact that it does make you cry a little bit during some sequences, but definitely has some great comedy moments as well. And I saw this movie with just a variety of people who've been through different stages of the adoption process, whether it was being foster families themselves or being an adoptive family, and they all loved the movie, thought it was true to home. And I think this is going to play well right from when it released, gets to, on 11/16 through the Thanksgiving season. And I just can't say good enough things about this one. This is a nice, wholesome film that people should go out and see.
Yeah, I totally agree. Sean Anders, as you mentioned, was at our screening too at the Ronnie's Marcus Theaters where we saw the screening for this. And he did a little Q&A with the audience. If you go to my YouTube page, if you just go to geektomeradio.com, click the YouTube button, we're going to have that video uploaded here as soon as I know that the embargo's lifted. I don't want to get in trouble either with with Paramount or anybody else like that. So it did. I was surprised by the level of heart and humor that was just equal parts throughout the film, because you'd be laughing one minute and crying the next. And I know Sean's obviously worked with Mark Wahlberg before with the Daddy's Home movies, as you mentioned. So I think that having that already working knowledge of each other, and then Rose Byrne, who is obviously from The Bridesmaid, so we know she's got some comedic chops as well. It was just a brilliantly cast, well acted, great story. And it's one of those movies, usually when I go see a drama, I'm kind of, we'll see, because I'm more of an action guy, but I was really impressed by the movie.
Yeah, and that's what I think this is going to appeal to as well, that a lot of people think, I don't want to go see a drama for whatever reason. But as you said, this mix of comedy and drama is almost perfect in terms of people wanting to go see this. This could be a perfect date night. This could be a movie with a family, with anyone from middle school age and above. And it would be great for other audiences, such as senior audiences. So I think they've got a good thing going with this picture. And it's something you don't often see in the marketplace, this mix of comedy and drama that can appeal to such a wide range of audiences.
Yeah, and I think the emphasis there is, like you said, it's probably for junior high age kids, because there was some salty language, and Sean Anders addressed that in our Q&A. He said, I made it PG-13, and he wrestled going back and forth with whether or not he should take out some of the, saltier language. But he said he wanted to kind of give that aspect, that the adoption process and having these new children in your home is not always easy. And he wanted the movie to kind of reflect that and give a slice of real life, which is why there is some saltier language and some stuff that goes on that wouldn't be suitable for younger children. But I think, as you just said, the middle school age and above, I shouldn't think it'd be a problem.
I don't think so either. And this movie is probably not on a lot of people's radar, but if it isn't, get it on your radar. It's going to be a great film for people to go out and see and just feel great about it when they leave the cinema.
And another one that we both saw coming up, I think it just came out this weekend, was the brand new Grinch. I I love animation stuff. I love Christmas movies, and I'm a huge Dr. Seuss fan. So I was excited for this movie. Benedict Cumberbatch voicing the Grinch. I liked it, but at the same time, I can't quite put my finger on it wasn't my favorite movie I've screened lately. And I think it was just that the story was there was not as much. I mean, they kind of tried to do some stuff for Cindy Lou Who is supposed to be no more than 2, and she's like a 10-year-old girl. She's got a little kid gang that she runs around with. It was a little odd, I guess, but I didn't not enjoy it, but I also didn't enjoy this one as much as I thought I would. Did you have the same inkling?
Well, I did enjoy it, but I can see where the critics and where some other people said it might have fallen a little bit short. The movie brought in, they've now just released it, $66 million this weekend. Universal saying that's the most money for a Christmas title to make in any weekend of any Christmas title ever. I think they did a good job here. It's been about 18 years since we saw Jim Carrey as Grinch in the year 2000. I don't think it broke any new ground, but I will say this. I think the animation from the original Grinch, since it was from 1966, is getting a little dated.
Yeah.
I liked the updates. I thought they did a great job with the animation here. But you're right. There's no new ground or great new ground being broken. But then again, I don't know how much I wanted them to take this Grinch story into the departure either. So I would say when I was watching it, I came out of there having a great time. I thought families will have a great time enjoying this one. And, there might not have been this extra special, unique thing for people to say, well, this Grinch was great because it did this differently. But I thought it did its job, and I think for the next couple of weeks, it'll be very popular with other families.
Yeah, I did like the imagery they had of him using all of his contraptions to steal Christmas from the Who's homes, like his little shoes that he'd walk across the roofs with and his little candy cane grappling hook / net release stuff. That was all brilliant. I thought the animation was fantastic and very slick. I had a few little issues with the story, but I did appreciate it and enjoy it more than I think the Jim Carrey version. So I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, well, we keep talking about the Jim Carrey version, although that Jim Carrey version in 2000 did $55 million, which adjusted for inflation probably did actually better than this one. But $66 million, I think that's great for Universal going forward, and I do think they have a winner in their hands in terms of consensus at the box office. Yeah,
I think it'll be a good show for this weekend and probably well into the Christmas season. I think it's going to have some great legs to it. We're going to take our first break. Are you okay to stick with us, Brett, for a little while longer?
I'm certainly okay.
Perfect. We're going to take that next break and pay some bills. We'll come right back talking more movies with Brett Hoffman of Marcus Theaters right after this. Stand by.
I wouldn't touch you with a 39.5-foot pole. You're a vile one.
Hey, I'm Dan Fogler, everybody's favorite muggle, and this is Geek to Me Radio.
We are back. Still talking with the social media and marketing wizard from Marcus Theaters, Mr. Brett Hoffman. We actually had just talked about Instant Family, and Sean Anders made the comment in the live Q&A. He probably did the same with you, Brett, that he's a little concerned they're going up against Fantastic Beasts that opening weekend for them, which is literally and figuratively a beast at the box office.
Yes, that movie is going to be phenomenal. It gets released next week. And actually, if anyone's looking forward to that movie, we have some early Tuesday showings next week. That's going to be at Chesterfield, The Pear, Ronnie's, St. Charles, and O'Fallon, and there's still some tickets left. So if you're looking to go to Fantastic Beasts early, there are still tickets to the Tuesday early performances. They've got their premieres on Thursdays. That surely will be a juggernaut next weekend and be number one at the box office. But I think, hopefully, word of mouth for Instant Family will kind of guide it, and that's a movie that's just going to have legs as people keep seeing it. It's not the type of movie that's going to do $100 million opening weekend like a Fantastic Beasts. But obviously, I think we're all looking forward to that film as well.
Yeah, I agree. That's one of the ones I wasn't sure about the spinoff because I was a huge Harry Potter fan, and I remember seeing the previews for the first Fantastic Beasts. And I was like, well, I don't know. I ended up going to see it after all, and we had Dan Fogler on the air, and he was fantastic. So I'm an instant fan of that series now. So I'm very excited for this sequel, which, as you said, will probably do some major damage at the box office its opening weekend.
Yeah, most definitely. And I think now people will no longer have to compare it to the Harry Potter movies. Hopefully they'll judge this as a series in and of itself now that we've had one 2 years ago being released. And I think this will create a life of its own. There's certainly a lot of plot content in this new one. You can read the reviews right now that are coming out for critics. But I think in the end, it's the customers, it's the fans that are going to judge this one. And I basically think you'll see a lot more films from the Fantastic Beasts series after the reaction to this one holds true.
And one that I don't think you saw, but I ended up doing the screening last week, was for Overlord, which I enjoyed more than I thought I would. I kind of figured this was just going to be a zombies but World War II thing. But for having not a real huge name cast, no huge headliners, but it was very well done. The acting was top notch, I thought. And some of the little drama aspects, I feel like the movie could have been shorter had they cut out a few things, but I was actually impressed. Maybe it's because I went in with low expectations, but I know you hadn't seen this. Have you heard similar buzz about it, though?
Yeah, I'm seeing similar buzz. It's getting some great reviews from people going and see it. I think the challenge of a movie like this, or any J.J. Abrams movie that he puts out, is that the trailers don't give everything away. They don't give away the exact plot details, and I think that's what people have to remember. You really have to go see these movies to really figure out the origin of what it's about. Did you find that with this picture as well?
Yeah, because like I almost thought just seeing the previews, I was like, oh, zombies World War II. It kind of looks like a first-person shooter video game, kind of like Wolfenstein or something, which it definitely had those elements, but it had a nice a coherent and fully realized plot, I feel. Like I said, the acting was great, and it had a satisfying conclusion. So while it wasn't anything that's going to be groundbreaking, I'm a sucker for World War II era films anyway, so it automatically had me hooked there. But overall, I enjoyed it a lot more than I thought I would. The guest that I brought with me said that she also enjoyed it. So I think it's one of those things where it's going to be I think probably a better turnout for the box office than I think, as long as the word of mouth stays positive.
So for your guests out there, how terrifying is it? If you're a little squeamish, can you go see it? I guess I'd like to hear about that.
Yeah, it's got some, there's some blood and some gore. So I'd say if you're on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being really squeamish and 1 being not squeamish at all, if you're anywhere in the 5 range, you might want to possibly double check and see if you're really wanting to go. But I'd say if you've got a higher tolerance, then I'd say it's a great movie, because it's violent. There's some gore, there's some blood. It's set in World War II, so as I said, violent. But it was fun though too.
Yeah, it brought in about $10 million this weekend at the box office, which is about right where they thought it was going to be from Paramount's standpoint. And I think some of those good reviews will help it catch on. And this is another movie that will be great, not only in the cinema, but people will keep watching it, whether they're streaming it or whether they're watching that video as well. So I think Paramount's in a very good position with this picture right now.
And then some of the holiday films to watch for, there were some that you'd mentioned coming up. And Green Book, the other ones you mentioned, Aquaman, obviously Bumblebee and stuff like that was on my radar. I didn't really hear much about Green Book. Tell us a little bit about that one that's coming up.
Yeah, this movie is coming out on November 21st, just right before Thanksgiving. It is getting some great reviews. There's a 93% rating right now on Rotten Tomatoes. And it's basically on a true story. Viggo Mortensen plays this guy, Tony Lip, who is a bouncer from this Italian-American neighborhood in the Bronx, and he's hired to drive this world-class black pianist named Don Shirley on a concert tour in the Deep South. And obviously these two form a bond. There's some conflict because they're riding through the Deep South, and this is the 1960s that they're driving through, but obviously shows how they were confronted with different issues of racism and danger, and also they were working to develop their own relationship on this tour as well. Both of Viggo Mortensen and basically his counterpart are getting some great accolades for their performances in this film. And I just think this is a film that a lot of people haven't looked at. It might not be on their radar, but I think that people are going to love it. And like anything, it's going to get legs and perform well into early December. It probably will play all the way through Christmas. And these actors may have a chance for some award nominations as well. So Green Book looks to be a great movie. And a lot of people kind of compare it and say, well, is this kind of a Driving Miss Daisy 2 type of movie? I can tell you, other than the fact that they're in a car together during a lot of the film, it's not a Driving Miss Daisy 2. They have to use a car to get through this touring in the Deep South, but it looks to be just a very powerful film, taking a look at something that really happened and some of the history of our country, and of course what happened when people were trying to break boundaries. So I'm going to tell people, look out for this film and take a chance on it when it comes out, because it looks to be really special.
And we're coming up against our next break, so we're going to pause right there. We'll hit the commercial break. We'll come back, talk a little bit about Aquaman, Bumblebee, and also Vice, the biopic about Dick Cheney starring Christian Bale. We'll talk about all that and more with Bret Hoffman and Marcus Theaters. Stand by.
Hey, hi, listeners. This is Greg Berger.
Meet Grimlock, Dinobot leader from Transformers.
And guess what? You're listening to Geek to Me Radio.
We are back. This segment brought to you by Discover St. Charles. That's the city of St. Charles. The website, discoverstcharles.com. Go to the website to check out all the cool things there are to see and do. They've already got their Christmas tradition stuff up on the website. If you've not been to Christmas Traditions before, it's the longest running and biggest Christmas festival in the country. People literally come from all over the world to this event. Last year, I remember talking with some people who were there from Paris, France, who came for it, specifically for this event. And if you are coming from out of town, there's all sorts of places to stay. They've got some charming bed and breakfasts, all the way up to some world-class hotels. They've got unique shopping and dining experiences. December 1st will be the weekend for both their Las Posadas event, which always draws a crowd, and later, or I should say earlier that morning, there'll be the Santa's North Pole Dash for all you runners who want to get your run on. Lots of things to see and do, especially during the Christmas festival for the entire city of St. Charles. You can plan your trip, check out pictures from the events. You can find all the things to see and do. You can find places to stay. Just basically, your entire trip is right at your fingertips. DiscoverStCharles.com is that website. And there is always something unique and cool going on in St. Charles. Very proud to have them as one of our premier sponsors for this show. Before we left, we were talking with Mr. Bret Hoffman of Marcus Theaters all about movies. That voice you heard coming back from break was Greg Berger, who voiced Grimlock. And another favorite Transformers character is getting his own movie coming up, and that's Bumblebee. Bret, what have you heard as far as the buzz on this movie?
Well, I think that what they're trying to do here is a little bit something different. In 2017, the summer of 2017, they came out with The Last Night, and that movie only did $130 million domestically. So what I think they were going for with this one was a little bit different approach. These Transformers movies are doing great overseas, but domestically it looks like they may be losing some steam. What I like in the footage that we've seen so far with Bumblebee is they're doing something a little bit different. They cast Hailey Steinfeld, who's a superb actress, and this story is going to focus more on her and her relationship with Bumblebee, and I think it's going to pay some nice dividends. I really like the direction they've gone that way, and we'll see if they can turn this around. The movies have steadily, like I said, been losing a little bit of steam all the way to The Last Night, only making that little over $100 million. But I'm hoping that there's still some life here, and obviously junkie someone like Hailey Steinfeld should at least give them a shot at that. What's your thought?
Well, I'm a huge 80s junkie, so I grew up watching the Transformers cartoon, so I've not ever truly been a fan of the new movies. Just a little too much CGI, too much explosions. It was always too grand of a scale. I appreciate what they're trying to do, but the series has never hooked me. And as you mentioned, I feel like each installment in the series has been a step downward. So I do like that they're going back to kind of the roots, that Bumblebee will get his Volkswagen form on this before he got the slick new Camaro form. And it is kind of, I think, a little more drama driven. I don't feel the universe being destroyed or the stakes we're playing for in this. I like kind of almost like a Transformers buddy film, if you will, like you said, between Bumblebee and Hailey Steinfeld. So I'm hoping, I always want these movies to succeed. I'm always cautiously optimistic, but I don't want to say, well, this is going to be horrible. I'm hoping this does well, and I think from the previews I've seen, they might actually have a bump, I think, over the last couple of Transformers movies.
I think so too. Now, the only challenge is they are going up against pretty much a lot of the same audience because Aquaman is going to be released the very same day. So we'll see. If Warner Brothers and DC have their way with what they're trying to do with Aquaman, we'll see where that leaves Bumblebee, because that means a lot of people are going to have to make a decision. Well, a lot of people see multiple movies over the Christmas season. Some people only see one, and they're going to have to make a choice whether they want to see the new Aquaman or Bumblebee, or take a chance and see if this new direction works.
And I know, talking about Aquaman, we discussed, you've already seen it, so I obviously don't want to get you in any trouble because you signed a non-disclosure. Is there anything you can tell us about the movie?
Well, all I can tell you is I'm really excited for when I can come back and we can talk about it together. It's projected right now to be the #1 movie of the holiday season. Right now, only Mary Poppins Returns is standing in its way. Obviously, Mary Poppins is going to be very successful, just going after what I call the 8 to 80 demographic, and basically we'll bring in everyone young and old to go see Emily Blunt as Mary Poppins. But I think Warner Brothers has something to prove here. We've seen a lot of their films go over very big, like Wonder Woman, and we've seen other people be critical of things that they've done in Justice League, whether it was people thinking it was too dark, or whether people just not enjoying them as much as they think they may have expected to. So they've got a lot to prove with Aquaman, and like I said, I can't give away any details, but I'm excited to talk to you about it when we can.
We'll definitely do that for sure. And I know another one coming up is Vice. This one, just the cast is surprising in many senses, but also I think this is one that I feel like, just from the bits I've seen and some of the stuff I've heard, this might get some Oscar attention as well. We've got, it's a biopic about Dick Cheney. We've got Christian Bale playing the title role of Dick Cheney. We've got Tyler Perry as Colin Powell, Sam Rockwell, who's proven himself to be an outstanding actor time and again, as George W. Bush. Steve Carell, of all people, as Donald Rumsfeld. What have you heard as far as the buzz on this film?
I've heard that this is going to be a tremendous film in terms of performances. If you go online, you should be able to see some initial footage from this, and you'll see these characters in roles that you could almost never imagine them in. I mean, their resemblances and mannerisms of these historical figures is just uncanny. When you look at Christian Bale, he both gained a lot of weight for this film to play Dick Cheney and must have spent hours in the makeup chair every single day. You look at Sam Rockwell just absorbing the persona of George W. Bush on screen, and then the other characters, including Amy Adams as Lynn Cheney, Steve Carell as Donald Rumsfeld. This, to me, is going to be a winner no matter what side of the political arena you fall on, because I think people are really going to enjoy these performances. And if there needs any proof that this will probably be a good movie, it's coming to us from the director of The Big Short, Adam McKay. And obviously that was a very well-done film about the real estate collapse that happened in about 10 years ago or so. And what a great film that was. I can't imagine that this one won't be great as well. And like I said, even if you fall to the right or the left or somewhere in the middle, I think just looking at these performances, and if you just go look at some of the footage, you'll see, wow, this seems to be one where the people were very dedicated and at least getting all of the mannerisms and kind of the nuances of the characters accurate.
And as we wrap up the show, I know I love what you projected here for Disney, and I didn't think about it at the time, but now that you've bullet pointed them out for me, the list of Disney films, I think this is, like you said, going to be a record-breaking year for Disney in 2019. Avengers, the second part of Infinity War, is just going to be an unstoppable force by itself. But we've also got Captain Marvel to look forward to in March. They've got Dumbo in March. We've got the live-action Aladdin. Toy Story 4 is going to come out. The Lion King. It's like they're visiting all their 90s titles as far as animation stuff. And then we're getting Star Wars Episode 9 at the end of the year. I don't see how Disney can be beaten at the box office in 2019 with a lineup just like that.
I think they're going to set the record for Film Supplier of the Year. When you look at all those things, and there's some stuff you didn't even mention, like Frozen 2, which is bound to make several $100 million. What I like about this slate is there's a lot of stuff that has momentum with Avengers 2, and there's some things that, from a nostalgia standpoint, you can't stay away from. Like Toy Story 4 is just... Toy Story 4 may do better than The Incredibles 2 did this past summer when it made $600 million and set the record for basically the highest grossing animated film of all time.
Yeah.
Disney definitely has a juggernaut in its hands. Watch out for them because it looks like every month they'll pretty much have a picture that will raise an eyebrow in terms of what it does at the box office.
And we've been talking movies with Bret Hoffman, the social media and marketing wizard for Marcus Theaters. You can make sure to follow them on Twitter and Instagram at Marcus_theaters. And of course, check out the website. We mentioned it earlier in the program where you can buy your tickets, find out where the closest Marcus Theater is to you. Check out all the cool dining options there are. There are multiple theaters across the country. Bret Hoffman, thank you so much for your time today. It's an absolute pleasure to discuss movies with you as always, sir.
Thanks for having me on, and we look forward to talking about movies a little later. Thanks so much.
We'll definitely do that. Thank you. There he goes, Bret Hoffman. MarcusTheaters.com is that website. Be sure to check it out for first-class movie-going experience. We're going to come right back, wrap things up in our final segment right after this. Stand by.
This is Alan Oppenheimer, the voice of Skeletor, and you're listening to Geek to Me.
We are back for our final segment. My thanks once again to our guests, Sunna Wehrmeijer, talking all about the new She-Ra flicks coming up, or She-Ra series coming out on Netflix. Let me try that again. On November 13th, so be sure to check that out if you're an 80s fan, or if you just like great animation, DreamWorks and Netflix will be bringing that to you right there on your TV set, November 13th. Thank you also to Bret Hoffman of Marcus Theaters for joining us for the hour to talk about movies. If you've got a movie that you've seen that you really like, let me know about it. Hit me up on Twitter at Geek to Me Radio and just say, hey, I really enjoyed this movie. We try to put our movie reviews up on our affiliate website, The Geeks Worldwide. That's the GWW. You can follow them on Twitter as well at _GWW. And of course, follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Geek to Me Radio. And we appreciate all of you following, listening, tuning in, subscribing, and all the good stuff that you do to help make me feel good about the show that we produce. Thank you to my executive producer, Joey V, for working the control board, hitting all the right buttons, and making the show sound as good as it does, and for keeping me sane during that entire time. We're going to be back next week. I believe we might have a special Voltron show for you. I'm still working out the details, but we will find out exactly. It's as much of a surprise to me as it is to you each week, folks, so I hope you enjoy what we do here. Until then...
It's not in the way you watch a zombie. It's not in the way you watch The Flash. It's not in the way you love Scotty Young art. It's not in the way you play Mario Kart. It's not in the way you look when you make Game of Thrones references. That's our show. This is Geek to Me Radio. That's our show. This is Geek to Me Radio.
Thank you, Eternia. Good night.